But then as we get into adulthood, and from 20 to 60, the metabolism stayed virtually the same. What's going on, everyone? My name is Cameron, and here I have
DannyLue?
DannyLue on Instagram, right?
DannyLue on Instagram, TikTok, everything.
There we go. The show is going to be about relevant topics related to the fitness industry. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to get fit, get active, improve their lifestyle, and there's a ton of information out there that gets a little confusing for people. So Daniel and I wanted to sit down and discuss these relevant topics. Today's topic of discussion is going to be all about metabolism. So why don't we go ahead and kick this off talking about metabolism? I think in how it relates to people saying, oh, I have a fast metabolism or I have a slow metabolism. What are your thoughts on metabolism?
So my initial thought is this, is yes, metabolism is obviously a very real thing, and yes, a lot of people have different speeds of metabolism. What I think happens more often than not is it gets taken and blown out of context. So a lot of people that are usually overweight like to say, oh, I'm just overweight because I have a slow metabolism, but often that's not the case. Oftentimes people that are overweight burn more calories than even people who weigh less do, who are actually like in shape. And that happens a lot just because their body has to support that weight mass, and they keep consuming it on a regular basis. Their body's already used to that. So I do think it's kind of blown out of proportion in terms of what people actually and how people actually view metabolism. I think that happens way too often. And I don't mean to understate the fact that everyone has their own individual metabolism. I just mean that a lot of people like to use it as a crutch for why they can't lose weight, when in reality, that's not the reason at all.
Yeah, so you're saying that people who are overweight tend to blame not even the fact, just the notion that they have a slower metabolism, therefore that is why they're overweight, correct?
Correct. And to be honest, I don't even think it just goes that way either. I have a lot of friends who want to gain weight. Danny, I want to put on some muscle. I want to put on some size. I hear this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
My metabolism is just too fast. And I'm like, okay. Exactly. I'm like, eat more. Eat more protein. Just eat more. You'll put on weight at the very least. Yeah. If you're exercising properly and you have a good resistance training program, you will put on muscle. You'll put on the size you want to put on. Mm-hmm. But they go, but Dan, I'm eating a lot. Eat more. Yeah. It's kind of just that simple. Yeah. I understand you may feel like you're eating a lot, but eat more. And then a lot of people see these guys. I don't know if you've seen these guys that weigh like 250, 300 pounds, like on social media or whatever. And this is what I eat, 5,000 calories in a day. And people think that, oh, they can eat that because they're that big. No, they're that big because they eat that way. Yeah. It's the wrong thought process that people have.
And so there was a study that came out a couple years ago that showed that between the ages of 20 and 60, your metabolism stays pretty much the same. Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah, so I will link the citation of the study in the show notes. But yes, so it was a large cohort study, and they looked at from pre-birth to 95 years of age, right? And they measured the metabolism. They showed that from when you were born, it's about the same as an adult, right? But then as you get older, you start to develop, you're going to burn a few more calories because kids move a lot, right? But then as we get into adulthood, and from 20 to 60, the metabolism stayed virtually the same. And once it started to dip, and it dipped a little bit past 60 because start to slow down a little bit more, maybe you're not exercising as much, but it was minimal, the dip in metabolism. So for virtually all people between 20 and 60, your metabolism is going to stay the same, which is crazy. So when people want to blame the fact that I have a fast metabolism or I have a slow metabolism, it's not the case. Our metabolism stays the same. The thing that makes the difference is fat-free mass and fat mass. It has been shown that people who have more lean body mass do burn a few more calories than those people who have less lean body mass and more fat mass. So that is the thing that makes the biggest difference. If you are somebody who thinks that, oh, I have a fast metabolism or I am overweight because I have a slow metabolism, it's not necessarily true. It could just be, a matter of activity level. It could be a matter of, for somebody who is trying to gain weight and can't, you move too much. And people are pretty unaware of how much they move.
I agree.
Yeah. They could be way overactive. a non-exercise activity thermogenesis for some people, NEAT, does seem to play a little bit of a role in that, but it's not going to be
very minimal.
It's going to be minimal, right? Some people move a little bit more, some people move a little bit less. Overall, though, how much lean body mass you have on your frame and how much exercise you're doing, the type of food that you're eating, those things are going to contribute mostly to whether or not you're going to be successful in gaining or losing weight. It's not necessarily your metabolism.
I totally 100% agree. And I do think it'd be beneficial as well if we could dive into the minutia, as you would say, of the metabolism, because obviously you have the different parts of what people view as your metabolism. So a lot of people view their metabolism as like I eat food and it takes me this long to process, and this is how much energy I get out of it. That might even be a little complicated for some people, just that aspect. But obviously we know there's the BMR, the basal metabolic rate, which a lot of people misconstrue. A lot of people say the BMR is like, oh, the BMR is what your body will use throughout the day. And like that might be true, but it's actually more separated into further categories. Like you just mentioned NEAT. That's not in the basal metabolic rate category. That's an additional category that your body will spend calories on.
Yeah.
So you have your BMR, which takes up a big chunk, right, of what your body's going to use. And your BMR, I should have explained it first. It's just what your body does to maintain homeostasis, if you will, to keep your body alive and functioning.
Yeah, and if you were sitting down or laying down all day and you did absolutely nothing, that is how many calories your body is going to burn per day.
Exactly. And it's a large chunk. It's a big chunk. It's
significant.
It's like 60 to 70%, right?
Yeah, it's a decent amount. It's like most of it.
Yeah. So you have that, and then you have the NEAT, the non-exercise
activity thermogenesis,
which is a very, very tiny chunk. And then you have the thermic effect of food, even smaller chunk, like what your body will burn just processing the food that you eat, the calories you do eat. And then you have another, I wouldn't even call it significant chunk, just another chunk is just your exercise activity level.
Yeah.
What you actually do, your step count, do you work out, like what type of workouts are you doing, all that kind of stuff then plays into that last factor. So that last factor is not even a bigger chunk of what contributes to your metabolism speed. That's why I find weight loss to be so much easier to just change what you're eating instead of how you're exercising. I find weight loss so much easier in that sense, because how much exercise you do doesn't have that big of an impact on your calorie balance.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah. If you've ever tried a 10,000 calorie challenge, have you ever tried one?
No, I haven't tried a 10,000 calorie challenge. I think one day I wanted to see if I could burn 5,000 calories, and that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I did, and this was when I was in running shape, when I was a track and field athlete. I think I ran in the morning. I did a weight training workout after that, and then I did a long ass run after that and hauled. And that day, I think I just burned 5,000 calories.
5,000. Yeah, it's crazy.
It was ridiculous.
Anyone that's tried any of those type of calorie challenges would tell you, eating the 10,000 calories is way, way, way easier than burning even 5,000, like you just described.
Yeah, but hold on a second. I just gotta pause there, okay? Because I think people get caught up in this. You've seen the things where it's like, oh, Michael Phelps ate 10,000 calories while he was training for the Olympics. I just call cap on that all day, every day.
I also call cap.
Dude, it's nobody understands what it takes to eat 10,000 calories. 10,000 calories is a ridiculous amount of food. I think last year my bulk, even getting 4,000 to 5,000 was insane. And you have to eat absolute garbage to get that weight, to get that calorie intake.
Yeah.
It's insane. It was like in the morning, I'm doing like beef and rice, and then I'm doing In-N-Out burger, and then I'm doing Chipotle, and then I'm doing, more beef and rice and pasta. I mean, it's another job eating that many calories. So yeah, 10,000, like people think like, oh man, it's easy to eat 10,000. It's so freaking hard to eat 10,000 calories. And then you're just crapping all day.
The only way you can do it realistically is like you're saying with the junk food, sugars, carbs, fats, like stuff like that. Even fats I wouldn't recommend, because fats are very satiating. It's got to be a shit ton of sugar and a shit ton of carbs to even come remotely close to getting that 10,000 calories. If anyone could do 10,000 of just like a carnivore diet, I would fucking be so impressed. I'd lose it.
You're just drinking olive oil the entire time.
I guess that would be carnivore still. Yeah, that looks more like keto to me. But
okay, yeah, keto. Sorry. Anyway, but we're getting into the weeds here. So let's go back into basal metabolic rate, total daily energy expenditure, like you were saying, and those are the things that, so all those things that we talked about, based on metabolic rate, NEAT, the thermic effect of food, and then the activity level adds up to your total daily energy expenditure.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is going to be based off the individual. There are different methods to assess what that total daily energy expenditure is. There's some simple calculations. We can probably put a link to those in the show notes and stuff. But having an understanding of, okay, what would be the requirement of calories at maintenance, and if you want to gain or lose weight, it's a matter of whether I need to go a little bit over or a little bit under that maintenance threshold, right?
100%.
And then planning your meals accordingly and trying to make sure that you have some sort of calorie tracker. Now, if we're going to go into the minutia of those things too, if we're going to look at your nutrition facts, those do have a margin of error that people don't take into consideration. And I think it's about 10%, could be upwards of 20. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure on that. But like if you're looking at a food label and it says this item of food is 100 calories, that does have a margin of error. And we could either be above or below that. But I think that the practice of measuring your food, trying to make sure that you're hitting the right caloric intake is going to be the best thing for us when we're trying to gain or lose weight. Bodybuilders have been doing it for decades and decades, and they have been extremely successful with it. Anybody who has gone on a weight loss program has been successful when you measure your calories. When calories are equated, it is much easier for you to hit your goal. And it becomes difficult for some people because you're like, oh man, I really have to weigh my food and do this and do that. Again, I say this all the time, just do something easy, get into the habit of practicing measuring your food, and then add a little bit more each time.
Or take away, depending on
or take away,
depending on your goals, of course, whatever you're trying to do.
I don't mean add, I mean just record more throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then that just gets you on your way to a more successful fitness journey.
And if I could make like a finishing point, that's how you do it, right? That's the science behind how you do it. I find personally that, yes, while we're in a science, this is still somewhat of an art in the sense that we are all very incredibly different. What works for someone who's 5'8" and 150 pounds and you're 5'8" and 150 pounds is not necessarily going to be the same, might not necessarily work for a variety of reasons. Whether you have like allergies, different metabolism speed you still could have, or a variety of factors. What's going to work at the end of the day is going to be trial and error and just learning and understanding your body and how it works and what works for you. So it's kind of just taking the steps to promote that trial and error so you could learn what works best for you. And it's a long journey. That's why they call it a journey. It takes a lot. It's a lot of process, a lot of failure, a lot of learning what your body likes, doesn't like, how it operates. Yeah, I just wanted to make that kind of final point just because I find it very important that, because like you said, there is a margin of error. So within that margin of error is where we kind of need to learn to operate, because we might be thinking, oh, we're eating exactly 2,000 calories. Why aren't we losing weight? But if there's a 10% margin of error, maybe we're eating over 200 calories over, which could do the math, could lead to weight gain in the long run. So it's like you got to play with it. You got to learn, try and different things and see what works best.
Yeah, and just being aware of what you're putting in your mouth, because
Exactly.
when I had a conversation with my buddy Bobby, he was talking about how people will measure their calories, but then what they do is they don't measure the oils that they put inside their food. And right now, there's a massive witch hunt on seed oils. Everybody's talking about seed oils and the negative effects of them. But, I mean, realistically, one of the biggest things that they do is they just add more calories to your food. And it's easy to put into a lot of different products because they just add weight, they're filler, and it just gives you maybe a better taste. I don't know. But it's just going to add more calories. And people, especially with olive oil, they just add olive oil to everything.
Yeah.
And they're not realizing that that's, high in calories. It's fat.
Yeah.
So you got to be aware of what you're putting in your food and measure those things.
Yeah. Whether it's good fats or not, their fats are still fats. They're high. They're
Fats are still
calorically dense.
Fats are still fats. People always like to give that excuse, like, oh, but it's good fat. I'm like, yeah, but it's still
fat.
It's like 9 calories per gram. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think measuring your food, being aware, like you said, finding a program that is specific to you, and then I think finding enjoyment in the journey and in the process itself, because if you're going to dread this thing, yes, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And if you're constantly checking the scale, like our weight fluctuates, I don't know about you, mine can fluctuate about 5 pounds or so per day. And that can be discouraging if you're stepping on the scale every day and you're going, oh man, it's not going down. But you have to look at the average. Like, it's the average going in the trajectory that you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then good job. Stay on the path and find enjoyment in measuring, training, whatever. You know,
I totally agree.
There's so many benefits you get from eating properly and working out.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. But all that sounds like a conversation for a different video, so we can move on later.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and conclude this video. Everybody, thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today on metabolism. Again, I will put a link to the citation of the study in the show notes, as well as where you can find total daily energy expenditure. If you enjoyed today's content, please like and subscribe, and then we'll catch you in the next video.